My parents told me to apologize to their beloved golden boy or forget about schooling. The next day, he kept teasing me until he saw the letter from the board on my bed. He stormed in terrified, sweating. "You didn't file it, did you?" Mum's eyes widened. File what? On a rainy Thursday afternoon. I had just come home from Westlake High, tired from an exam, when Jacob intercepted me in the kitchen. He was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, phone in his hand. I could already tell he was up to something. "Hey Mina," he said, smiling that fake lazy smile he only used when he wanted trouble. "Did you send that email to Coach Phillips?" I looked at him sideways. "What email?" "The one where you told him I cheated on the last game's playbook." I blinked. "What? Why would I email your coach?" But he wasn't listening. He was scrolling on his phone, acting like he had every right to accuse me of whatever popped into his mind. When I tried to walk past him, he blocked my path. "Don't play dumb," he said. "Someone snitched, and coach thinks it was you." My irritation built fast. I pushed his arm so I could get through. He made a dramatic sound, stumbled back like I'd shoved him into a wall, and dropped his phone on purpose. It clattered loudly on the tile floor. "What is wrong with you?" he yelled. Mom came running first, Dad right behind her. They saw Jacob grabbing his shoulder and immediately turned on me. "Mina," Mom snapped. "Why are you assaulting your brother?" "I didn't assault." Dad cut me off. "Apologize. Right now." I stood frozen, the unfairness hitting me like a punch. "I didn't do anything." Jacob sniffed. "She pushed me hard." Mom's eyes hardened. "Until you apologize to your brother, Mina, you are not returning to school. I'm emailing your counselor tonight. If you want to behave like this, maybe a few days at home will straighten you out." I stared at her, stunned. "You're suspending my schooling because of him?" "No," Dad corrected. "You are suspending it because of your stubborn behavior. We've had enough of your attitude. And until you kneel and apologize properly, we're done funding your tuition." "Kneel," I whispered. Jacob smirked behind them. I felt something inside me snap, not violently, just quietly, like a thread that had been stretched too tight for too long. I turned around and walked upstairs without saying a single word. The next 2 days were strange. My parents acted like disciplining me was some grand moral victory. My mom left my breakfast on the kitchen counter without a note. Dad avoided eye contact. Jacob floated around the house like a king who'd won another battle. He kept making comments like, "Still waiting on that apology, sis," and, "They're serious this time, you're not going back until you say it." I ignored him. Because what he didn't know was that I had already been planning something long before this argument ever happened. 3 months earlier, after another incident where Jacob lied and my parents blindly took his side, I researched school transfer options. Westlake High was overcrowded, the academic counselors were overwhelmed, and I wanted a fresh start. So I applied quietly to Braxton Ridge Charter School, a smaller, more supportive school a few districts away. I didn't tell anyone, not my parents, not my friends, not Jacob. I wasn't even sure the board would approve my request. But on Saturday morning, when I woke up groggy and stepped into my room, I saw a thick white envelope on my bed. Braxton Ridge District Board. Student transfer decision. My heart pounded. I picked it up with trembling hands, sat on my bed, and opened it slowly. Approved. Every part of the transfer had been authorized. Academic evaluation accepted. Prior grades validated. Student placement secured. All I needed to do was sign the last 2 pages and file them with the district office. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the papers. This wasn't punishment anymore. This was my exit. For the first time in months, I smiled. I printed the additional forms, signed where required, and organized everything neatly on my bed. I didn't hide it. I didn't care if anyone found out. By noon, Jacob wandered into my doorway without knocking. He always walked into my room like he owned it. "What's all this?" he asked, picking up the envelope. I stayed silent. He skimmed the pages, and his expression changed so fast I could almost hear his confidence cracking. "What is this?" he asked again, voice thin. "You're transferring schools?" I nodded once. His throat bobbed. "Without telling Mom and Dad? They don't need to know until it's filed." Jacob stared at me like the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. You can't do this." "Why not?" I asked. His voice rose. "Because." He shut his mouth quickly. Too quickly. "Because what?" I cocked my head at him. "Because what, Jacob?" But he didn't answer. He put the paper down and walked out stiffly. The next morning, my parents left early for church and errands. I stayed home, organizing my documents again. Jacob, however, was a mess. He kept pacing past my room, pretending to be casual, but every time his eyes landed on the envelope, his face drained a little more. He looked like someone was squeezing the air out of him. By late afternoon, I had all the documents set in one stack, signed, clipped, and ready. I only needed to file them the next day. That's when Jacob stormed into my room, eyes wide, hands shaking. "Mina," he said, voice trembling, "tell me you didn't file it yet." I looked up slowly. "Not yet." His chest rose and fell sharply. Please tell me you didn't file it." That word. Please. From him. It was so out of character I almost didn't believe it. "What's your problem?" I asked carefully. But before he could answer, we heard the garage door open. Jacob's eyes flew wide with panic. Mom was home early. Mom walked straight down the hall, heels clicking, and saw Jacob sweating beside my bed, and the transfer letter in my hand. Her smile vanished. Her eyes narrowed. Her voice turned sharp. "Filed what?" she demanded. Jacob flinched. Mom walked in, grabbed the papers, and read them. Her face whitened with each line. "A transfer," she breathed. "Mina, when did you apply for this?" 3 months ago, I said calmly. Her head snapped toward Jacob. "And you," she hissed. "What do you know about this?" Jacob swallowed hard. His lips trembled. He looked like someone whose secret had just been yanked into the light. Mom took a step toward him. Her voice dropped. "Jacob, what did you do?" And for the first time in my life, I watched the golden boy panic. Jacob had always been good at lying, but in that moment, standing in my doorway with sweat gathering at his hairline and my mom glaring at him like she could see straight through his skin, he looked like a little boy who'd been caught stealing. And not candy, something big. Something heavy. I didn't do anything," he stammered. "I just found the papers." Mom's expression didn't change. "So why do you look like you're about to faint?" "I'm not. Jacob." Her tone dropped. "Don't insult me." He clamped his mouth shut. Dad arrived moments later, following Mom's sharp voice down the hall. His eyes scanned all of us, then landed on the stack of transfer forms. He picked them up, skimmed the pages, and his brows crashed together. "Mina, what is this?" "A transfer," I said evenly. "To Braxton Ridge Charter." "You applied for this behind our backs?" "Yes." "And you think that's acceptable?" "You suspended my schooling because I wouldn't bow down to Jacob," I said, feeling my voice shake with restrained anger. I needed another option. Dad opened his mouth, but Mom lifted a hand sharply. "Not now." She turned to Jacob. "Why were you panicking about these forms?" "I wasn't panicking," he said weakly. Mom stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Jacob, if Mina leaves Westlake High, is there something that happens to you? His chest rose and fell like he couldn't get enough air. No. Jacob. He didn't respond. Mom folded her arms. I'm going to ask one more time, and you will answer me honestly. Why are you terrified of your sister transferring schools? Silence. An unbearably long silence. Dad finally snapped. Jacob. And that was when Jacob's voice cracked apart. Because if Mina's transfer goes through, Coach Phillips will contact you, he blurted. He'll tell you what happened at the last game. And you'll find out what I did. The room froze. Dad's face darkened. What did you do? Jacob swallowed hard, eyes darting between our parents. I needed Mina to take the blame. For what? Mom demanded. Jacob rubbed his palms against his jeans, fingers trembling. The playbook leak. My eyes widened. What? He nodded miserably. I sold copies of the team's playbook to a rival school. I needed the money. But Coach found out it came from our house. He thought Mina might have done it, so I let him believe it. My stomach dropped. Dad's voice rose like thunder. You lied and allowed your sister to be accused of cheating? Jacob crumpled inward. I was going to fix it. I just needed time. And Mina transferring means Coach would involve the school board, Mom finished, connecting the pieces. And the board would call us. Jacob nodded helplessly. Mom stared at him like she'd never seen him before. The golden boy facade was melting, fast. Dad slammed his hands against the doorframe. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you could be in? That's academic fraud, Jacob. Federal offense levels if they dig deep enough. I know, he cried. Okay. I know. That's why I freaked out. I stood there numb. I'd known Jacob was selfish. But this? He'd been willing to let our parents suspend my education, ground me, accuse me, humiliate me, all to protect himself from consequences he created. Mom slowly turned to me. Mina, why didn't you tell us about your transfer plans? I didn't look away. Because every time Jacob does something wrong, you defend him. Every time I try to explain myself, you shut me down. I wanted something that wasn't controlled by how he felt about me. Mom's face broke, not in anger, but in something like shame. Jacob stepped toward me, eyes desperate. Mina, please, don't file the transfer. If the board investigates, if Coach calls Dad, it'll ruin everything. Colleges won't look at me again. The team will suspend me. I could even face consequences. I asked with a bitter laugh. Imagine that. His eyes filled with panic. Please. He had never asked me for anything without arrogance before. But I wasn't moved. Not after everything he'd put me through. Not after watching him ruin my reputation and nearly cost me my future. Mom turned to Dad. We need to handle this properly. Dad nodded. We do. I expected them to yell more, maybe ground him for months, maybe take his phone or revoke privileges. But what they did next surprised me. Dad looked directly at me. Mina, your choice stands. If you want to transfer, you can file the documents tomorrow. This is your future, not your brother's. Jacob's head snapped up. Dad, please. Enough, Dad barked. You have done enough damage. Mom placed a hand on my shoulder. If you want to leave Westlake, we'll support it. We won't fight you on it. My throat tightened. For once, my parents were seeing me, not Jacob's shadow version of me, but me. Jacob looked at me with pure terror. Mina, don't do this to me. I stepped back. You did this to yourself. He reached out as if to grab my arm, but I pulled away. His voice cracked. Please. I'm begging you. Don't file it. Please. I walked around him without answering. That night, the whole house felt like a pressure cooker. Jacob didn't come down for dinner. Dad stayed silent. Mom kept glancing up the stairs. I stayed in my room and packed the small things I wanted to take to Braxton Ridge. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. My transfer forms sat neatly on my desk. I showered, got dressed, and slipped downstairs. Mom was in the kitchen, holding a cup of coffee. Dad stood beside her. They both looked at me, not with anger, but with quiet acceptance. "You're filing today?" Dad asked. "Yes." Mom nodded solemnly. "We'll talk logistics afterward." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Just as I stepped outside, Jacob appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes red, hair messy, like he hadn't slept at all. His voice echoed across the hallway. "Mina." I didn't stop. "Mina, please." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." I paused at the door. Slowly turned. He was trembling, holding onto the railing like he needed it to stay standing. "If you file that transfer, everything falls apart." "I know," I said softly. "That's the point." He let out a small, broken sound. "I never wanted to hurt you." I stepped outside. "But you did." The door closed behind me. I walked down the driveway, sunlight warming my skin. My steps grew steadier with every block I passed. My lungs felt lighter. My chest looser. For the first time in my life, Jacob's world didn't matter. I reached the district office, pulled open the glass door, and stepped inside. The woman at the front desk looked up pleasantly. "Hello, how can I help you?" I placed the documents on the counter. "I'm here to file my school transfer." She smiled. "Of course. We'll take care of it." I signed the final confirmation page. Watched her stamp it. Watched her slide it into the official outgoing file bin. Just like that. It was done. A weight lifted off me. Something heavy and old, something that had clung to my shoulders for years. I walked back home slowly, the breeze cool against my face. When I reached the house, Mom and Dad were waiting on the porch. Jacob hovered behind them, face pale. Mom whispered, "Did you?" I nodded. "It's filed." Jacob's breath hitched. His knees nearly buckled. Mom's expression hardened, not at me but at him. Dad let out a deep exhale, rubbing his forehead. And for the first time since I could remember, the golden boy had no more shine. And I finally had my freedom.